lot of times, and I say this, and sometimes I get some people, especially farmers, maybe looking at me like, what? But I truly think, because I know it has been this way in my family, young families look at communities that do have good school districts and good school systems. They want to have good, not just schools, but also the extracurricular activities and all those things for their children too.
Very, very much so.
And so, and part of that is, I think Fairfield has played a very important role in southeast Iowa, in my estimation, in the past, present, and hopefully in the future. And hopefully, too, the school district is a cornerstone and a part of that whole thing. And so, anyway, this is just, as you said, a very important topic and something we're trying to give a lot of thought to. In fact, the board just came out of a finance committee this morning where some of the board members were on the finance committee, and probably had about 3.5, 4 hours worth of this finance talk and kind of going through some of this. But back to the problem here, as far as we're looking at having the 5th grade possibly at Fairfield Middle School next year, and possible closure of Lincon Elementary. Mike, you kind of want to discuss what rooms you have and what facilities and what's available over at the Fairfield Middle School?
Sure. Because of declining enrollment that Mr. Ackel already mentioned, we currently have basically 5 to 6 rooms that we do not use, that are empty. I shouldn't say not used. We use those rooms just as you mentioned in a house. If you have space, you use it. If you got a place to collect stuff, you collect it.
Stuff gets here, doesn't it?
Exactly. So that's kind of the situation we're at right now. But we have 6 rooms that are not so tagged as far as educational purposes on an everyday basis.
Okay.
So by looking at what we can do, and with the declining enrollment, classes have gotten smaller, we can kind of shift those empty rooms so they exist in one area of the building. To do that, we just have to move a couple of our teachers and make those rooms available for another grade section to come to the middle school.
Now, would those rooms all be located near each? Obviously, a 5th grader and an 8th grader, these would be set apart, or how would that work?
When we first started talking about this, we decided to go out and do a little bit of research and talk to schools in Iowa that are going through the same situation or have gone through the same situation. At this point, I've talked to 15 to 17 different schools.
Wow.
That are under a 5 through 8 situation. And that's one of the things they said with a younger child or a younger student that may be around an 8th grade student, you may want to look at keeping those kids as localized as you can. Currently at the middle school, we do run underneath the middle school concept, and part of that concept is even though you have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students in the same building, they still have their own hallways. So we have a hallway where 90% of our 6th graders have all their classes. We have a hallway where that's our 7th grade as well as our 8th grade wing. Where our empty rooms exist right now, we'd be able to move a few teachers and then have those 6 classrooms available in one area of the building that would also be able to let our 5th graders come in and out of the building from a different entrance.
That almost seems ideal.
Yeah. With the situation that we're looking at right now, we feel it is. We can have our 5th graders intermingle as much as we want to with our 6th, 7th, and 8th, or if we need some more isolation, we can pretty much control the flow as we want.
That's fantastic. Now, does that offer a significant, obviously I would guess bringing everybody together, there are probably some educational benefits to this as well.
Right, with the educational side, obviously in the middle school, one of the first educational benefits you think about, we have 3 grade levels at the middle school, and right now we're the only school in our district that way. So the middle school, as it stands right now, the kids are always in transition. As 6th graders, they're transitioning to the middle school. 7th grade, okay, they're kind of there, they're setting roots. 8th grade, they're transitioning to the high school. So it's almost the kids get used to their situation and their surroundings, and they're looking forward to moving on to somewhere else. So an educational benefit number 1 is just the comfort level of the kids. Get them in the building, let them know the rules, let them understand what's expected of them, and let them thrive in that situation. Also right now, our current 5th grade teachers are spread throughout the county. I don't know if that's a good way of looking at it, but from Libertyville to Lincon to Washington to Pence. With those teachers being able to come to the middle school, now you have 5th grade teachers underneath one roof, and they can talk about what's working for them in the classroom, how they handle certain situations with students, and what's best for the kids. So now all of a sudden you've set up a situation where teachers can talk on a daily basis.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do economically? I'm sure, obviously if we're looking at savings, bringing things together, you know, using space that's not already used, you know, as you said, it's gonna accumulate stuff. Taking advantage of resources we already have just makes sense.
Well, we tried to put some pencil to the figures and come up with figures so that we can try to look at what that would amount to. We are still working on that and specific details. But one example there, and I'll pick on the administrative group on that, is that one of the plans under this would be that we have 2 elementary principals retiring this year, and that we would not replace both elementary principals. We would only replace one of them. And thus, what would happen under this type of a plan would be that one principal would probably do Pence Elementary, which would have 3 sections of K through 4. And then Washington principal would, which would have 2 sections, would pick up the Libertyville building. So that principal would have 3 sections too. But that we would do with one less administrator, you know, there. Of course, there'd be savings in utilities, there'd be savings in other ways too. We would probably keep, you know, we have 11 teachers retiring this year under an early retirement incentive. This is where things get a little cluttered. And we do look at, because of the class size, that we probably can get by with 5 sections of 5th grade instead of 6, okay? Because of the size. But we would be able to probably save on like custodial, we would secretarial, some things that way, so there'll be some additional savings that way too. One of the other things that kind of has come up we've had 2 public meetings now where the board has collected public input. But one discussion was, well, why not just close not only Lincon, but close Libertyville too, our other single section elementary school, and just put all those kids into 5 sections of K through 5. And not keep 6 sections of some. And kind of what happens with that is, especially at the low elementary, strange things begin to happen. The kindergarten class size, for example, would go up to 27 to 28 kids in a class.
Wow.
1st grade would have 23 to 24 kids in a class. 3rd grade would have 25 to 26 kids in a class. I think I said that wrong too. 2nd grade also would have 25 to 26 kids in a class.
That's a lot of kids in a class.
Well, and we don't think that's good. You know, that's why we don't see that as a solution from the administrators as we talk about it and discuss it with the board. That really doesn't make sense.
Okay.
That we do have 2 single section elementary buildings. And that closing one of them is a way that we can, at this point, not release a lot of staff, keep as much of our programs together for the kids, continue to serve instruction pretty much like what it is now, but have the savings on the money too.
So from a parent's perspective, having 4 daughters myself, one that's already made it all the way through, one that hasn't started yet, and 2, one's in the middle school right now, and one's a 4th grader. So this is a great topic even for me. From a parent's perspective, this seems, I don't know, to make a whole lot of sense to me. I understand it's a hot topic everywhere, but it seems that I'm not, as a parent, going to be sacrificing education, but we're seeing responsible fiscal management of the facilities and of the resources we have.
Well, I think the catch here, Scott, is that it's hard to accept change sometimes. And it's also, if you're a 4th grader have a 4th grade child going to Lincon, you were expecting them to be there next year. If that is your community elementary building, you get, okay, now
we're looking at
the middle school, and we're looking at, my 10th grader being around a possible 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And is that too much of an age jump, or is it not? And, we don't want our kids to grow up too fast. And, is this part of the thing of the district trying to have my child grow up too fast? Really, there isn't any other alternative thing behind. What we started